Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this very strange annual general meeting of the Wilts Berks Canal Trust. Welcome from the Wantage Studios here, where if I look out my left-hand window, I can just about work out where the canal route was, about 50 yards away. I can see by the trees, and if I really imagine when I'm looking at it here, I can see the brick arch bridge that would have stood here before. My apologies first to Wootton Bassett branch, Royal Wootton Bassett branch, and Jenny, who was supposed to be hosting the meeting today. Hopefully normal service will be resumed next year. If I concentrate, I could almost smell the Bassett caterer's cottage pie wafting through the village hall that we would have as usual. So at the moment you should be watching, and I'd just like to present you to say hello to our trustees, Rod, Jenny, Colin, Paul, Steve, Sue, Justin, and Chief Exec Gordon. Just thought we have a brief glimpse of them before they drop out of the meeting and let me take over for the formal part of the AGM. So thank you very much, all of you. I'll catch up with you later. Thank you, and I'll let you can now relax for a while and watch the proceedings. Thanks, everybody. One of the reasons for doing that, as we say cheerio, was so that I can confirm that the meeting is indeed quorate under the terms of our Memorandum of Articles of Association. Thanks very much all. So we're going to start the ball rolling, and if I can get my technology working properly, I will now go on to my fantastically superb PowerPoint. This one here. Bear with me a second. Right, share that one. Let's see if I can get this right. There we go. Hopefully that should be the PowerPoint, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see if that works. Okay, so moving on. First obstacle, my slides aren't moving on, which they were earlier on. Why aren't you doing it? Okay, let's try again, shall we? You should be back to me again. Right, we'll try with me again. Slight technological hitch, but I'm sure I'll get there in a second while I reopen my PowerPoint. Right. Right, hooray. Hopefully you're now seeing the second slide, which shows the agenda. So we're going to go through welcome, apologies for absence. Well, you've had the welcome. I have apologies for absence, and those are from Ray and Chris Tarling, Adrian and Marina Smith, Derek and Jill Godwin, Morris Baker, Trevor Turpin, Barbara Carroll, Deborah Lewis Pride, who's clerk to various parish councils, Gillian Bond, Alan Trinder, Kate Nottage, John Pearce, Dennis Goulding, Tessa Landstein, who apologised at the last minute she couldn't make it, and thanks very much. So we have working our way through. We have thank you very much to all of you who voted online or by post. We had 108 returns. Thank you very much. And as we go through, the first resolution was the approval of the minutes of the 31st AGM held last year in a very rainy Melksham, if I remember rightly. That resolution has been passed. Our second resolution was to approve the director's report for the year ended 31st of March 2020, as shown in the accounts and the report which went out and is available online. And again, I'm pleased to announce that that resolution was also passed. At this point, we will go into the Treasurer's report, and I will now hand over to technology to Rod and his videoed Treasurer's report.
Good afternoon, my name is Rod Blue and I'm pleased to be able to present my Treasurer's report to this virtual AGM. The accounts for the year ended 31st of March 2020 were signed off by our chairman on the 2nd of September, having been prepared by our accountants Morris Owen in Swindon. In terms of restoration activity, it was a relatively quiet year, following the financial difficulties in previous years relating to the Studley Grange project. It was very much a year of consolidation and putting in place financial controls to ensure that our financial position remained positive and to lay the groundwork for building up reserves and future activity. I believe this has been successful. Over the past 12 months, we have overhauled the accounting team. We have a new team headed by Peter Wilkinson. The management accounts are now produced monthly, and this has enabled us to spot issues quickly. A new membership system has been put in place under the leadership of Martin Stubbs, and we are now being informed by our accounting system in real time, and this is ensuring that everything is in order month by month. And this is evidenced by the fact that actually no adjustments were required to the accounts prepared by Morris Owen, other than the ones that we had already identified. The operating position of the Trust in the previous year to the 31st of March and in the current year still remains tight, but we are living within our means. The accounts did show to the 31st of March a small loss in the sum of £7,947, but this was after depreciation of our assets of £6,282, and also we wrote off some old debtor balances of £6,007. And if you adjust for these two items in terms of cash on our operating costs, we were positive to the tune of £4,342. Now, this is by no means a large sum, but it was positive. We are living within our means and we are managing it month by month. The control over expenditure got better throughout the year. We're pleased to have managed to keep the finances in relatively good order. That said, the current year is not proving to be particularly easy either, due to the effects of the COVID pandemic. It is putting pressure on our income. For example, the boat trips, which are a constant cash earner for the Trust, have not been able to run this year, which is making a significant difference. And also in the year to the 31st of March 2020, we had a new stream of income, being the rental income from the Peterborough Arms in the sum of £15,000 a year. But this has had to be reduced by 2/3 to help the landlord with the effects of the pandemic. Nevertheless, we're managing to deal with the negative aspects and keep the finances on track. The membership income has also declined, but not significantly, and steps are being taken to deal with this and address it going forward. Now, you will have heard that the momentum is still strong in a forward direction in terms of restoration aims of the Trust. I've seen a much improved morale and positive spirit over the past 12 months, and good work is happening to bring the funds in to drive the restoration strategy. At the present time, there's in excess of £100,000 sat in restricted funds for these projects, and fundraising activity to increase this is going on all the time. This, regrettably, is my last report as your Treasurer. and as a trustee, as I'm stepping down at today's meeting. Personal reasons dictate that I have to focus elsewhere. I've spent the past 5.5 years involved in the trust. It's been a really good time in my life, despite the fairly significant challenges we faced following the Studley Grange project and the very sad loss of our volunteer 3 years ago. That said, I've been equally inspired by the sheer dedication and commitment of so many within the trust to drive this project forward. It's a project that I really, really believe in. I think can have great benefits, not only for those working on it, but for the communities it serves, for the urban areas along the route. And yes, we do still need people to engage with it more than they perhaps do at the present time. But that work is increasing and continuing. There is a new professionalism within the trust. It is building external confidence in the project, and in turn I think it will deliver results in the future. I will very much miss my day-to-day involvements with the trust, but I will be watching and wishing everyone all good fortune for the future. If you do have any questions relating to the accounts or the trust financial position generally, please either email or send them into the office, and we'll do our very best to get you the answers that you need as soon as possible. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the AGM. Thank you.
Hi, well, thank you to Rod very much for that, and for all his sterling work over the years. Also, at this point, I'd obviously like to thank our finance team, and especially thank Peter Wilkinson, our head of finance, for all the work he's been doing. Don't forget, those accounts are up to the end of the 31st of March 2020. I know, although he mentioned membership in there, our membership team and Elaine have been doing sterling work on membership renewals as well. So again, my thanks to Rod, and I shall be sorry to see him leave as treasurer and trustee. Right, so the next resolution on the board, as it were, is the resolution to board the trust. Sorry, a resolution to approve the trust's accounts for the year ended, and with the votes cast, I can tell you that that was approved. So we now move on to the election of the members of boards of trustees. Well, I should say I'm going to interject slightly at this stage, just to say, in case anyone was wondering, we are covered for the holding of this AGM virtually under the Coronavirus Act earlier in the year. At one stage, that covered AGMs up to the end of September, but the government have extended that to the end of December, and hence we are quite within our rights to hold a virtual AGM. And I'm very glad we did, because we couldn't have held a small AGM with just 6 people, and it wouldn't have been unfair for those of us sort of socially distancing. Anyway, back to the election of members of Board of Trustees, and there were 3 sections to this. One was the re-election of the retiring trustee, i.e. moi, and I'm sorry to say you voted for, so that's me still on. Thank you very much to all of you. The second one was the election of our co-opted and appointed trustees, and in this situation that was Paul Barrow and Justin Lewis. Justin came on earlier part of the year. Paul was co-opted fairly recently. Thank you very much already for Justin's input through the year, and I'm very looking forward to Paul's input as a sort of local councillor in the Vale as well, not that far away from me here in Wantage. Thank you very much in progress, as it were. Right, okay, and I have to tell you that was in favour as well. Moving on. At this stage, we usually confirm nominated trustees. Now, the IWA, the Canal Partnership, and who have I forgotten? IWA, CRT, all have the right to nominate a trustee to the board, and I have to tell you at the moment, none of them have. Sue is our retiring trustee from the IWA. They are currently seeking a replacement, and as and when one is nominated to us, we will take the necessary actions. My thanks again to Sue for all she's done over the last 3-4 years. We had no other nominations, so we move on. I'm going to admit an error at this point. I am fallible. Usually at this point we would reappoint our accountants, but if you're really observant, you'll see that it wasn't on your voting form. I've got nothing against our accountants and no problems, but we are also looking for a new treasurer, and once we have that in train, we will do whatever we need to as regards reappointment. Which leads me on to the chairman's report. Shambling, rambling item this year, which is back over to me on a video, guys, and a lot of thanks to do. So at this point, I'm going to hand back to the technology and say over to my chairman's report. And now I can rest from running one PowerPoint live while you watch another PowerPoint, which in the true Blue Peter style I made earlier, being the chairman's presentation for 2020, hopefully not treading on the feet of my fellow presentees. This is not the AGM I expected to have this year. We were all lined up for our usual event to be held at Royal Wharton Bassett when COVID struck. Eventually a decision had to be made on how we would do it, and the event we decided to go all virtual. In view of the reduction in numbers down to 6 a few weeks ago, I'm certainly glad we did. Hopefully next year we'll be back to normal. I have to say I've certainly missed the usual Bassett caterer's cottage pie. In later presentations, Gordon will give his report as Chief Executive Officer, and Tessa give hers as Head of Projects, and she'll update you on the ongoing project work. So I'm not going to say much on outstanding projects. I've been told not to take up too much time today. However, I'm going to move on in a moment to some thank yous. But before I do, this is an extract from our website. Yes, the website, our vision. And it's worth looking at this, well, every day. And I know Gordon's going to mention the version that's in our Memorandum of Articles of Association. Essentially the same. We are here to restore the Wilts Berks Canal. We know why. We know the canal is already valued. Just look at how many people use the towpath during lockdown as a getaway, and how many people enjoy our boat rides when they're available. We also know that vision takes action, and sometimes action takes time and planning. And sometimes it takes far longer than we expected, and we're also complicated than we thought. But we work through those difficulties. Don't forget that all of this is volunteer-led, and in some cases, some of the volunteers are also in full-time work. There's been some great work this year on improving our internal financial reporting and our communications. We have the ability, indeed, have produced mailings on specific subjects direct to our members by email, in addition to our normal methods of communication. In summary, we ought to look at this vision every day and just remind ourselves of why we're doing it and why it's so good. I'm confident that we now have a firm basis after the last year or so to make progress towards our goals. And now I wish to spend some time thanking various people for all the efforts you put into this lovely project of ours over the last year or so. Firstly, my thanks to the Board of Trustees. Here we are, up to the date of this meeting, with the inclusion of Paul and Justin, who we've just confirmed into role. We've had to get used to meetings remotely by Zoom or Google Meet. We meet bi-monthly, and whilst I don't necessarily miss the 100-mile round trip to Dauncey Lock Canal Centre, I do miss our post Board of Trustees meetings in the Peterborough Arms. Talking of which, now is just as good of a time to say please do continue to support Michelle and Brendan at the Peterborough Arms, which is of course our pub. It's worth recapping, I suppose, what the Board of Trustees' job is. In a nutshell, we're a steering group to ensure that the trust is compliant with the things we have to do and should be doing, and also to manage overall strategy and hence direct the chief executive and the executive. We continue to seek to broaden our trustee knowledge base and will work to replace retiring members and to fill specific role requirements. There are specific expertise we are looking for, and how shall I put this? I have a little list. Thanks go to our retiring trustees. Firstly, Rod Blue, who's now retiring as a trustee and as treasurer. He came on board as chairman following stepping down as leader of Swindon Council, led us through some very tricky times, for which we should be very grateful. He stepped down after the 2018 AGM, but agreed to carry on as trustee and took on the treasurer role after Sheila Wade stepped down. So my sincere thanks to Rod for all of his hard work and expertise. No escape, Rod, however, because I will be calling on you from time to time to jog my memory and for bits of advice. Secondly, Sue Cooper, who's been our Inland Waterways Association nominated trustee. Since the local elections last year, she's also been trying to do this and to be leader of the council as well, which has been going through some very interesting times as regards their local plan, for which I can only offer my sympathies. My thanks to Sue for all of her input to the Board of Trustees and her expertise. The Inland Waterways Association have not yet nominated a replacement, however I will be chasing them to do so, and we will advise in due course who one has been nominated. We are delighted that Robert Buckland, MP for South Swindon and Secretary of State for Justice in the government, has agreed to come on board as a Vice President. This was through the good works of Chris Barry, who seems to know everybody in Swindon. That forms part of our strategy to bring on board the various MPs along the canal line as our champions. Very much work in progress, and thanks to our performance improvement group and communications team. Fleur de Philippe was until recently chair of the Wiltshire Swindon Oxfordshire Canal Partnership. She's announced that she's stepping down from the council next year, and we are delighted that she's agreed to become a vice president. My aim for this coming year is to properly establish better communications with our vice presidents and to make best use of their skills, knowledge and influence. At this point, I wish to thank Andrew Matters, who stepped down as CEO early this year. He brought a much needed, fresh, professional and steady hand to the role and re-established the cooperative nature of this organisation. Very much thanks from me for all his support. Gordon Olsen nobly stepped into the breach this spring. Previously our fundraising officer and for that trustee, has brought his business acumen to play for the organisation, and his thirst for improvements and innovation is astounding and superb. I thank him for all he's doing for our organisation and for his support for me as chair. We now have a very strong and professional executive committee with a great team of special advisors we can call upon for expert advice. Over the year we've seen some changes, but now have a very stable team going forward, and it's with this stability that we will continue to make progress in the things that really matter: restoration and maintenance, communications, membership, increasing our profile, to name but a few. Thanks again to all of you. Our relationship with the Wiltshire, Swindon and Oxfordshire Canal Partnership has greatly developed over the last year. My thanks to all the partners, and especially to Wiltshire Council for their leading role in the partnership. My thanks to President John Laverick, previous chair of the Canal Trust. Congratulations or commiserations to Richard Broadhead of Wiltshire Council, who's just recently taken over as chairman, taking over from Fleur de Philippe. And finally, my thanks to Project Officer Extraordinaire Ken Oliver for all he does for our organisations, working together to restore the Wilts Berks Canal. I thought I should mention the current state of affairs as regards the investigations following the tragic accident involving Peter Cunitzer at Pewsham. We are currently awaiting the result of the HSE Health and Safety Executive investigations, and of course are cooperating with their inquiries. We won't relax on our health and safety, and I thank all of you for your cooperation going forward. Of course, most of our work is done on a voluntary basis. However, we do have 3 paid staff, and I'd really like to thank Patricia, our trust administrator, Elaine on membership, Nancy on accounts, for their work for the trust, quite often in excess of their normal hours. And I'd especially like to thank Patricia again for all the prep she's had to do to put the AGM together, in as much as all that paperwork you had out in the post. Thanks, Patricia. And now the branches. Thanks to all of you in the branches, the chairs, the work party organisers, the committee members, the work party volunteers, and thanks to all our members who support us in different ways. It's been a very difficult year since March, getting used to doing branch meetings in a very different way. Having to stop work parties at the outset was not a decision the Board of Trustees made lightly. We were eventually obviously able to restart outdoor work parties, and I'm extremely pleased to be able to do that, not only for the good of the Canal Trust, but also we recognise the social value of getting out of the house and meeting other people, even if socially distanced. Thanks again, all of you. Special mention of boating. I really enjoy boating. Nothing more I like than having my hand on a tiller, and it's great to see our boats on the water. Boating, whether at Whitchelstow, Pewsham or Wootton Bassett, is a core activity of the trusts. Normally a great fundraiser. Obviously COVID got in the way since March 2020, but looking back at the previous financial year, we were doing really well. I don't get to crew as often as I'd like to. My thanks go, however, to all the skippers, the crews, and those who maintain the boats, and also a special mention for the Santa specials. So much fun for the adults and kids. A great way of raising our profile. Obviously not possible this year, but I was on the boats last year, and it was utterly superb. Thanks very much, all of you. Head of this slide are strategic aims. Tessa will talk about the ongoing major projects later. Gordon will cover the excellent work of the executive. But worth repeating again what our aim is, and that is a navigable waterway between the Thames, the Kent and Avon, and the Cotswold Canals. We have various documents at our disposal to help us with our strategy, including a superb partnership strategy report, which we can use as a basis for restoration and breaks the canal down into manageable chunks. Our main emphasis is the Swindon, Royal Wootton Bassett section, as well as working on Melksham Link, working towards Laycock, and of course other project work in progress, including at Shrivenum. Now, just before I finish, I would like just to pause a moment so that we can remember those of our members and supporters who sadly passed away in the last year. And I'm particularly thinking of East Vale stalwart Roy Morrell, who will be very sadly missed. Thank you. To finish, my thanks to all of you for efforts over the last year and for your support in whatever way you give it. We know this is a great project. We know it's a big challenge, but we also know it's worth it. Please continue to support us and keep an eye on our various communications for progress through the year. All the best for 2020-21, and please keep safe and well out there. Thanks very much. Bye. And it's back to the real me. Now, you didn't realise there was an extra medieval torture, did you? Ordeal by chairman's report. So well done for working your way through that. And if there's anybody I completely forgot to thank, you know who you are. Thank you ever so much. Having said that, at this point, I am going to thank Patricia Clements for all her pre-work on the AGM, including about 55 million photocopies of everything. And also thank you, Martin, for the techie stuff. Right, so that was the chairman's report. No special business to report. And in fact, that brings us, strangely enough, at about past, to the close of the formal part of the AGM, believe it or not. So we now move on to the entertaining stuff. And we are going to start with the Chief Executive's report, namely Gordon, and we will go into that next.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gordon Olsen. I'm Chief Executive Officer of the Wilts Berks Canal Trust, and I'm here to tell you something of what we achieved in 2019-20 and what we plan to achieve in this financial year. The question is, why are we meeting here today? And in fact, our memorandum and articles of association tell us very clearly we're here to promote the construction, restoration and maintenance of a navigable waterway linking the Chaddington Canal near Trowbridge with the Thames and Severn Canal near Cricklade and the River Thames near Abingdon to good and navigable order, and to maintain and improve the waterway for the use and benefit of the public. And I think it's important that we should never forget what we are all about. Second question is, why am I here today? It's actually very simple. I like the peace, tranquility and sense of tangible history of restored canals. I want the mental stimulation and problem solving work of my role in the trust because it keeps me active. I really like working with committed, clever people of all ages. I've made new friends since I joined in 2017, and being involved with the Wilts Berks gives me many hours of enjoyment. And I suspect I'm not alone in this. So what did we achieve from April 2019 to March 2020? Most importantly, we changed the whole atmosphere in the executive and the volunteers for the better by re-empowering the branches. We reduced spending on core overheads by more than £35,000 a year. We stayed afloat financially thanks to subscriptions, donations and brilliant efforts by the boats team. We recruited Peter Wilkinson as head of accounting and moved our accounts office from Budapest to Muscat. That's a little joke for those of you who know something about history. We restored the waiting wall at Pewsham. We began work on Shrivenum Canal Park, biodiversity and community engagement. There's more to come. We made excellent progress on replacing Hancock's water footbridge. We made good but slow headway on the Melksham Link planning application. We re-engaged with our head of IT, Martin Stubbs. We set up a new communications team under Chris Barry. We produced a formal budget for 2020-21 in a weekend planning workshop in February. And we bid to Highways England for M4 crossing feasibility and design work. And I feel that these were very good outcomes for a charity that was then in survival mode. Time for some pictures. The first is of Dragonfly moored at Waitrose with the new Hall and Woodhouse gastropub on the other bank of the canal. This really is a showpiece for the Canal Trust and for all the work over all the years by the volunteers that made this possible. Next picture is of Chaddington Lane Bridge, and you can just about make out a swan sat there looking wistfully at the culverts. We have a plan in place to completely rebuild that bridge and open it up to connect the waters at Chaddington with the Studley Grange section. A major project, £500,000 worth of work. Here's a picture of some volunteers. Westvale branch has been particularly good at attracting corporate volunteers, that is to say people employed by a company who come as a group to work on a site. And this group is working at the canal park at Shrivenum, where they've achieved a huge amount of good work. Next picture, not so encouraging. This is of the work being done by a housing developer, Stockholm, to build a causeway across the canal and block it. We're involved with planning enforcement people from the Vale of Whitehorse, and we will have this removed and the bridge that was designed to go there instated. Here's a stunning picture of a flycatcher feeding its young. You notice how plump the little bird is and how hard Mum is working to get it to eat. Last picture, this is one that we used in our advertising for a chief engineer. Brunel you will recognise, but the Kitchener style your country needs you pointing of the fingers is very telling, and we're still working on this recruitment process. So key objectives from April this year to March 2021. We're growing our membership, and we have already recruited over 120 new members since the beginning of June. We're looking to recruit younger people, or more able to do the hard work that's required along the line. We're going to have sound finances from Peter Wilkinson's very experienced financial management. We are near completion of a complete overhaul and validation of our health and safety policies and processes. That will mean that we can safely restart work in future. Restoration work along the line is being restarted by our head of projects, Tessa Landstein, and the big plan in place for setting out all the things that need to be dealt with and overcome before we can start this work. We will have better communication with all our members from Chris Barry's comms team, which has been a huge success since we set it up in April. One of the results is that we've now settled the form of our publications to members. On the button monthly will be available electronically. Dragonfly is now a quarterly publication, available electronically and in hard copy for those without computers. And the top of the line, I guess that's what you call it, is Dragonfly Plus annually, which will contain the annual review and the financial reports required for the next AGM. We're going to be tackling water supply problems with a new working group called the Water Access Group, WAG for short. That's going to be headed up by Derek Flexer, who's also newly returned from the wilderness, to help us at the Wilts Berks. And finally, and this is very important, we're going to be building new supportive relationships with other canal trusts, the Inland Waterways Association and the Canal and River Trust. This is a very important part of raising our profile and making our case heard for the various things we need from local and national government to push our projects forward. So I think the summary is that the Wilts Berks Canal Trust is back on track and heading towards its proper objectives. So finally, thanks from me to the Chair and the Trustees for their support and advice, to the members of the Executive and its advisors for making my job possible, to the foundations and other donors who funded our endeavours, to the volunteers and members who do the hard and tangible work along the line, and finally, not least, to my wife for encouraging me to be a canal husband. Thank you very much for your attention this afternoon.
Thanks very much for that, Gordon, who I know is watching and listening in. astounding amount of work going on at the moment. There's so many positive things happening. Thanks very much to Gordon and the exec and everybody. It is totally astounding and amazing. Right, we are now going to head on to Tessa Landstein's Head of Projects report. Unfortunately, Tessa can't be with us this afternoon, but we have her report nonetheless. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Tessa Landstein. I'm Head of Projects for the Wilts Berks Canal Trust. I'd like to spend a few minutes giving you a quick update on the projects we've made a start on, those that are still outstanding and that we'd like to ensure we make some progress on in the coming year. I'll work my way down the canal, starting up at East Vale and finishing down in the south in the MCC branch area. I'll look at Childry Wharf, Stockholm, Shrivenum Canal Park and Stepping Stones Bridge. Then in the Swindon area, the Eastern Swindon, Northeastern Villages area, Westleys Wharf, M4 Crossing, moving into Royal Walton Bassett, Chaddington Lane, which you may also know as Binal Lane Bridge, Hancock's Waters Bridge, and then finally in MCC, very quick update on Peterborough Arms, destination Laycock, where we're at with the continued restoration at Pewsham's Lock, and the Melksham Link project. First of all, in the East Vale area, Childry Wharf Wall has sadly come away from the bank side. In one place, as you can see from the photo on the left, has completely now come away, and some of the stonework is indeed submerged underwater in the canal. The part beyond the collapse is starting to come away as well, so we probably need most of that wharf wall to be brought back down, salvaged and then rebuilt. We were hoping to do that as part of a water recovery group summer camp, along with Stepping Stones Bridge from the West Vale area. Unfortunately, due to COVID, of course, all of those summer camps were cancelled for this year. So we would hope that we would be back on track for summer 2021. There is a chance that some of the recovery groups may be able to help us on winter weekend camps and at least make safe and salvage the area that has come away and is starting to come away before we get into the spring. At Stockholm, this is a part where there aren't many parts of the canal that we actually own, but we do own the part at Stockholm. And what we'd very much like to do is to re-dredge, remove some of the trees that are obviously getting very overgrown and occupying parts of the canal. We'd like to start to turn this area into one of our model sites so that we can bring stakeholders and fundraisers to this site over the years and show them what we'd like the rest of the canal to look like. So those are the two areas really that I wanted to cover for East Vale. If we move on, if we now look at Shrivenum Canal Park and Stepping Stones Bridge. I've already mentioned Stepping Stones Bridge. The only elements left there to do are the foundations of the wing walls and then the rebuilding of those wing walls. The rest of the bridge has had work done on it over the years through various WRG, Water Recovery Group, working summer camps. So again, hopeful that that will be done by next summer. I would love to be in this position next time last year in my presentation showing you some photographs of the finished article. Let's hope that we can achieve that this time round. Shrivenum Canal Park, which some of you may know as Pocket Park. It got a rename as part of an IWA, Inland Waterways Association, grant application. We were successful there. We've got just under £14,000 to spend on rewatering the part of the canal line there that we do own as part of the park. Also to beautify the compound area, which is looking a little tired and unloved. We've already started, but have more funds to do more work around improving biodiversity habitats and increasing the flora that we've got on site. Already considerable wildflower areas, but more to be done there. And also, as part of the funding, we will reach out more to the local community, provide better information points, signage, involve more educational groups and local community groups in understanding and appreciating the work that we're doing in Canal Park itself. It's quite a popular area because it's part of the circular walk for Shrivenum, so it does get quite a lot of footfall. And again, along with Stockholm, would be an area that we would very much like to showcase in the future to demonstrate what a fully restored canal could look like. If we move to Swindon, so Eastern Swindon is the new eastern villages, the Southern Connector Road, all just east of the A419 trunk road on the eastern edge of main Swindon. Rod Hacker and the engineering team have been working very hard along this stretch. There are 2 or 3 housing developments. As we said, there's this Southern Connector sort of bypass road to take traffic from these new housing developments. There's some protected areas in terms of Roman remains in the foothills of Womburgh. So all of that area needs careful planning and understanding of the exact line of the canal. And Rod and the engineering team have been working hard on how we make sure that whatever development goes in there allows enough space, keeps the right levels, so that we can minimise the twists and turns and the number of locks that will be required in that area. There may be a couple of housing developers that actually do choose to build canal side properties, similar to those in Whittleston, which will be lovely and will have the canal as part of their implementation. Others, though, will leave space for us to do our own restoration in the fullness of time. Wesley's Wharf is where we have our Swindon Working Party compound, and where we were able to take Dragonfly narrowboat out of the water earlier this year to do some hefty maintenance and refurbishment on her. Thank you very much to Dave Watkins for allowing us to berth Dragonfly up and do all that work around Easter time, and thanks of course to the boats team for supporting all that work, and she now looks really lovely, so hopefully we'll be able to get her back in use once we've got the COVID restrictions out the way. The wharf itself, the project there is a slipway to make the area easier to access for local canoe clubs, other boating enthusiasts that are part of clubs. It won't be a public slipway, but it will be a club type slipway. That at the moment is on hold while the other area associated with the compound, the field next door, is undergoing and getting involved with a planning application for some houses. Our slipway will form part of that planning application, so we are following the timeline of that as part of our project. M4 Crossing, I will just show a different slide. A number of you may have seen this slide in the September issue of our On the Button publication. There's a current scheme going on under the motorway which is giving a traffic management wiggle. If you're travelling between Swindon and Bristol at all at the moment, you'll notice that you are moved out of the normal line of motorway onto a temporary area. That current traffic management control setup is for the road, which is the grey line shown on this picture. That is the road coming out of Whitchelstow development. And we had originally hoped as a trust that the canal and the road would be alongside one another in one cut under the motorway. That has not been possible, so the two schemes are now separate. The road one is the one that is happening at the moment. The line of the canal you can see in the nice deep blue will be a little bit further to the east of the current road cut. We did submit a request for funding for feasibility and design to Highways England, who had suggested that we would qualify for their funding application. That went in March. It finally got reviewed in September. Didn't get approved, but didn't get rejected. We've ended up with a number of queries and further questions to answer and feedback to Highways England in the coming weeks, with a view that we have a resubmission for the November board, and would very much expect that the feasibility stage would be approved to proceed out of that November board. This particular project is obviously key to the whole of what we're trying to achieve as a trust. If we can't join our northern section to our southern section, we will never achieve a fully restored canal. So we are very hopeful that Highways England will be supportive and will allow a historic severing of the canal to be reinstated, which is really good news. If we move on to Royal Wootton Bassett, the Chaddington Lane Bridge, it was known as Binal Lane, but planning wise and submission wise in terms of our funding applications, it's referred to as Chaddington Lane Bridge. We have made 2 submissions this year for funding, one to the BIFA fund and one to the Green Recovery Challenge Fund, which is an arm of the National Lottery Heritage Fund. It's a scheme for about £500,000, and unfortunately neither of the 2 funds that we submitted our applications to felt we were high enough up their priority list to grant us funding. What we have been able to do though through making these submissions is to refresh our method, refresh our costings, and we now truly do have a project that is spade ready if and as and when we can find the right fund to allow us to move forward with this particular project. Hancock's Water Bridge, I'll just show you another picture here. So this bridge unfortunately had been vandalised. It's right at the end of Templars Furs and is used regularly by dog walkers as part of a circular route. The working party took it upon themselves to order a kit for the bridge, along with John Shreves, our bridge specialist engineer. And between the working party and John, the right design, the right setup has been attended to. We've now got a lovely wooden bridge. Dog walkers and indeed during lockdown, more general walkers have very much enjoyed using this. This is a classic example of the working party just getting on with it and delivering an element of restoration or maintenance when it's been needed. What was lovely, if any of you saw any of the pictures during its restoration, is quite a lot of the materials for the bridge itself had to be brought down to the site using the workboat loaded up at the Templars Furs slipway, and then water pontooned by the workboat to come down the canal to the work site. So very much using a method of transport that would have happened probably at the point that this was first built and first implemented. So thank you very much to John Bower, the Working Party lead there, and the Working Party team. Great job, great example of the local branch just getting on with the job and getting us a lovely finished product. Thank you very much. Finally, we've got the MCC branch, Melksham, Calne and Chippenham. Under the management of Dave Maloney, branch chair, the Peterborough Arms continues to be worked on with almost no funds. So well done to the team there for scavenging, upcycling, all the things that they're doing to make the small amount of money they have got go as far as possible. After last year's AGM, the ladies' toilets were finished shortly after we got together for our AGM. The lettings rooms are now being worked on up above the pub, and also a number of roof repairs have been attended to. So work continues at the pace that materials and funding allows. Thank you very much to the team that keep cracking on there. The two other projects here called Destination Laycock, and if we just jump over Pewsham Locks and talk about Melksham Link, both Destination Laycock and Melksham Link haven't had any physical progress this year, still tied up in making headway in terms of planning and stakeholder engagement and trying to actually get people like the Environment Agency on side. We do believe we're now having a slightly better dialogue with the Environment Agency on Melksham Link. Our thanks to Paul Lennox, who continues to be patient but persuasive, and we would very much hope that with some of our MPs now on board and helping to push our case with the Environment Agency, that we may well actually be able to make some better progress now on that particular project. And then finally, if we look at Pewsham Locks, the main activity that's gone on there in the last year or so is the fabulous building of the waiting wall. You can see the Working Party here, hard at work. It's a monster of a wall, and is probably actually the kind of solution that we'd end up putting in at Childry Wharf to make sure that there was no likelihood of collapse again on that site. But this site here at Pewsham, beautiful brickwork, all those coping stones have been created on site and then installed. More generally along the whole of Pewsham Locks, because it's a very extensive site, I'm sure most of you know it, we're about to start work on the Accommodation bridge and the wing walls associated with that bridge just below Top Lock. Very keen to get that started. There's a desire to also start the bottom lock, and some feasibility investigation work has been going on there as well. Those two projects will probably exhaust the funding that we've still got within the Pewsham Locks fund, so we will need to seek some other funding sources during the year, because we've still got the dry dock, the carpenter's workshop, the lockkeeper's cottage, the 3 locks themselves, the pounds associated with the locks, general landscaping to improve access in and around the site. But work continues, and thank you to the Working Party and we will do what we can with the funds available and keep promoting this site within the MCC area. So that covers the sort of very quick update of the projects that we've kind of got ongoing or in our sights for future activity. If you would like to get more involved with our restoration side, you don't have to be a bricklayer or a dumper truck driver. You could be desk based, you could help us with planning, you could help us with design, communications. There are all sorts of ways in which volunteers can help progress these projects. So please, if any of what you've seen today has excited you or made you think, yes, I'd like to find out more, please make contact with your local branch chair. Perhaps come along to a working party or two to find out the kind of work that's going on in your patch, and hopefully we can get you involved and engaged as we continue to try and restore this lovely canal. Thank you very much.
Right, back to me again. I know Tessa's probably not listening to this, but thank you very much, Tessa. A fantastic report, a hell of a lot going on, as we can see. Right, okay, we will now move on to the Wilts Berks Canal Trust annual awards, the Tony Davey Awards, in memory of one of our previous chairs, and presented by Juanita, Tony, late wife. Sorry, I've got that wrong. Right, we'll get that right eventually. In memory of Juanita's late husband, Tony. Apologies all round for slip of the tongue there. And also, I need to apologise for a previous slip where I mentioned in my chairman's report that the new chair of the Wiltshire, Swindon and Oxfordshire Canal Partnership was Richard. In fact, it is Councillor Chris Williams. Okay, right, on to the annual awards. The first is the Tony Davey Memorial Cup, awarded to the individual who's worked the most volunteer hours during the year 2019-2020. And the winner is Gordon Olsen, who submitted 2,000 hours with a value of 87,500. Now, it's not a physical value as such, but it's really useful value-wise where we're looking at our match funding and the effort we put in. The second award is the Tony Davey Crystal Award, which is awarded to the branch that submitted the most volunteer hours during the year 2019-2020. And the winner is, drum roll, Melksham, Carn, Shivenum and Foxham and Lynham branch, submitted almost 12,000 hours of volunteer work. Absolutely amazing. Thank you very much, Dave and the team. The second Tony Davey Crystal Award is awarded to the branch that most significantly increased its hours from the previous year. And the winner is West Vale branch, which have increased the hours from 1,375 to 2,763. So we look at the stats there. In total, the branches contributed, assuming you all put your volunteer hours in correctly, 27,621 hours with a kind of replacement value of £468,000. My thanks to Juanita for keeping those volunteer hour records. Do get the records in, and my apologies for my slip of the tongue just now. Okay, and the next award is for branch membership, and it's awarded to the branch which most increased its membership in the year. And the winner is Swindon. Well done, Rod. Well done, Swindon branch. A lot more scope there to do all kinds of things. And as we noted, membership has been on the increase overall during the last few months. Thanks very much, and thank you for all your support. I will be heading round at some stage to present the various awards, which I currently have in my possession, to the respective branches. So I look forward to seeing you at a socially distanced distance in due course. Okay, so I'm going to have a quick plug for the 200 Club. In the paperwork you got for the AGM, there was a thing regarding the 200 Club membership, £20 per annum. Proceeds after prizes go to the Canal Trust. Branches may put in bids for 200 Club funds for equipment and other vital needs, and I sincerely hope that you do. So please give that your support. I've got another plug. As Gordon mentioned, we are looking for a chief engineer. We are still looking for a chief engineer. Please give that your consideration. If you know anybody who's likely to fit the bill, please let them know. I'm also told that for members in Wootton Bassett and Foxman Lynham, there is a neighbourhood plan for Wootton Bassett on the go. Look out for the centre spread about the neighbourhood plan in the Foxman Lynham and the newsletter, and do please respond. Right, and there is other snippets. So thank you very much. And now we come to the open forum, and Gadzooks, I'm going to stop sharing it and go on to, as soon as I've got my notes going in place, we're going to stop sharing so you can actually see me. If you have any other questions arising as a result of the AGM, please do email in at info@wbct.org.uk. Right, hopefully I have stopped sharing, so hopefully you should be able to see me. Okay, right, we had a good crop of questions for the open forum. Thank you very much, all of you. Where should we start? We would start with, has the Trust ever considered creating a link with guiding and scouting? A number of organisations have made design created challenges towards life skills for its scouting and guiding members to work and achieve. This could incorporate some sort of community service tasks around the canal and restoration. Brilliant question. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. In fact, some of the branches already have. I've done some work. I was group chairman of one of the local scout groups around Grove, and we did various scouting work. So thanks very much for that. But yes, there's much more we can do. We have various scouting links within the organisation already. And I'm sure we can make those more effective and help with the life skills and of course the badge craft for, you know, whether it be Beaver Scouts, Cubs, Scouts, Guides, Brownies, Rainbows, whatever, and a bit of working together with local branches and perhaps through the district committees would, I think, pay. I know MCC branch have already been doing this, and so yep, that's a really good idea and one we will continue to take forward. Right, next question. Would the board approve the purchase of a rake attachment for you know who you are. Thank you very much for this question. Please put, for approval of purchase of maintenance equipment and capital, the right way to do that is through your branch chair and the branch treasurer, and put that through, and then it will be considered. Right, next, where should we go to next? I think we will go to this question. What plans are there? Thanks, Jill. What plans are there to raise the profile of the canal within the community in order to raise awareness, raise funds, and encourage new volunteers? Well, I think we're doing some of that already. I would never say we can't do it better. I'm sure we can. And I think we've already totally refurbished the website and added new content. We've been using Facebook, Instagram to expand our reach to younger people. We've got the 5 MPs on board to support our efforts and making our case at higher levels of government. We've recruited, I believe, 124 new members since June. We're getting new volunteers coming along, and there are plans to begin a regular news feed on local radio, especially around Swindon, and the local TVs and newspapers. And we will shortly have a continuing presence on YouTube. Well, this is, prime example. So what I've noticed other organisations doing, like the Inland Water Association (CRT), is delivering online lectures, and I'm sure we can do the same. Part of me says it's a bit like JFK. Okay, ask not what we can do for you, ask what you can do for us. Any volunteer help would be very much appreciated. So yeah, I think we're already doing some stuff. I'm sure we can always do it better. We've got a great comms team now, and our performance improvement group. And as I say, if you can offer help, please offer it. Tick. Right, next question. Well, some of the information Tessa gave you was regarding sort of various projects. I've had a question here: is what is the time scale for seeing berth craft in Melksham and perhaps onwards onto the Wilts Berks heartlands? Having isolated sections hinders boating members. Yes, a very good question. Part of me says, for the answer to that, well, we need to ask the Environment Agency, as it's them which are currently continually blocking our attempts to make progress and gain planning consent for Melksham Link. And one of the reasons we've got our sort of new VP on board, the VPs on board, and our 5 MPs, is to gain their help and influence at parliamentary level to get some progress on this, where we appear to be going around in circles, despite the many studies that we keep having to do. So yes, I can't give a time scale on that because unfortunately it's out of our hands. But the moment we can get planning for it, we will be pursuing it as rapidly as possible. Right, next question. Thanks, Ken. Could you show on the website the percentage distance of canal that is now in water is navigable, similar to just giving sites? So you know, sort of in the old days, we would have done what a thermometer gauge and sort of worked our way up in true Blue Peter Christmas appeal fashion towards our goal. Yes is the answer from our chief exec. Yes, we can and we will. Navigation is now at 6.9%. If you haven't looked at the interactive map on our website, then please do. And again, have a look at the website, which I think is jolly good. And the website clearly shows the sort of our navigable stretches. So thanks for that question. Okay, where shall we go next? Let's have a look. Question from Adrian and Marina. Could the Trust please provide a clear statement about the Trust's position regarding the Thames Water proposal to build a reservoir? As you know, this reservoir has been gurgling up and down as a plan now for, well, actually, more years we care to think. I seem to remember somebody was delving through the archives when they closed Moreland's Brewery, and they found a mention of a reservoir plan back in the 1920s, and it's been bubbling away since then. So Thames Water have been investigating the possibility of building a major reservoir in the area. For those who don't know, it's the area between Wantage Grove, Marcham, Abingdon, Steventon, and the Great Western Main Line. And their plans are kind of updated at 5-yearly intervals. They've consulted at various stages. Now, the position of the Wilts Berks Canal Trust is that if the reservoir is constructed, the protected line of the canal, and it is protected under the Vale of Whitehorse 2031 local plan, will be obliterated. And in this case, the Trust will require a new line for the canal to be established and protected, and other compensation measures to be agreed. So, we are neither for nor against, but our principle is if they actually end up building it, we want a replacement. It should please note that the Canal Trust has at various times been in discussion with Thames Water over many years, and they are fully aware of our position. Okay, the second part of that question was, are we in regular contact with the Cotswold Canal Trust about the use of the Thames and Stroud Water Canal to transport water for use by London and possibly link up the Wilts Berks Canal? Two parts to that question. Well, actually, it's not, but I'm going to divide it into it. Are we in regular contact with the Cotswold Canals Trust? Yes, we are. We are in contact certainly at CEO level. Gordon has been in regular contact now with their equivalent, and this is a very good thing to do. The Cotswold Canals Trust is also a member on the Wiltshire and Swindon and Oxfordshire Canal Partnership, and therefore we have links that way. As regards the use of this Thames and Stroudwater Canal to transport water, we know that is what they would like to do as a means of taking water across the hills and then down to the Thames. That has its pros and cons and forms a sort of a mix of conversations. So it doesn't form, I have to say, a sort of regular subject of conversations, but we know it is on the agenda. So there's the gap. So I hope that's a clear statement regarding where we are regarding the reservoir. Thank you very much for that. Right. Oh, I like this one. Thank you, Morris. May I propose a vote of thanks to the trustees, all members of the committee, and the dedicated active working party members for their committed attitude to the Wilts Berks Canal Trust? Yes, you may. Thank you very much on behalf of my fellow members, exec and trustees. That is very much appreciated. Right, okay, let's have a think. Okay, a couple more questions. Let's put that one away and have a look at this one. Couple more questions. Right, okay. One question, what is our next planned restoration project? Well, hopefully, Tessa's just now, as you've seen with Tessa, has answered that question. Will we be launching an appeal for members for funds? Quite possibly. All I'd say on that one is watch this space. I mean, I think the Vinyl Lane, Chaddington Lane Bridge is going to be quite a fundraiser, but watch this space on that one. Once everything's lined up, as it were, the ducks in a row, then we will come back and let you know. Thank you very much. Right, last question. Well, as I say, if you've got any more comments, questions, do please put them in on the info@webs email address. Here's a question. How do you intend to employ the assistance of the 5 MPs who have expressed their support for our cause? And there's a lot longer question to that one. Early days on that one. I mean, I think our first emphasis for the 5 MPs is trying to get the influence going so that we can overcome some of the objections from the Environment Agency. And the canal covers 2 different Environment Agency regions. But we really want to get across some of the objections the Environment Agency have, including sort of Melksham Link, which would then enable us to make progress on some of the bigger projects. So that's kind of where we're starting. Whether we move on to the next stage on a much more high level will be work in progress. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. So we are nearly finished. On that goes. So let me just go back to screen share and so we've had the 200 club, and this is where it's going to stop showing my screen, isn't it? It's decided it doesn't want to work again. So at that point, I am going to almost finish up. 2 other mentions for it. One is I'm going to mention, because I haven't had a slide for it, which I apologise for, is that our good old Peterborough Arms. If you haven't been recently, do please go and support Michelle and Brendan. My thanks again to the Melksham team and the volunteers and Melksham who have been doing continued refurbishment work. Fantastic place. I haven't been across there recently, which I really regret. Do please give that your support. And we are coming to a close, apart from one final thing, which is, if you haven't seen the news, it is a big congratulations to our sister organisation, the Cotswold Canals Trust, who heard yesterday that the Heritage Lottery Fund had approved their 8.9 million bid for funding, which should enable them now to do their phase 1B, which is the restoration of the canal from Stonehouse all the way through to Gloucester and Sharmas Canal, therefore are now enabling a through route all the way up to Stroud. This is absolutely and utterly fantastic news. I have sent an email today to their chairman congratulating them and offering my best wishes. So there we go. That's it for another year, everybody. Thanks very much for joining me on this very strange and weird AGM by virtual means. Hopefully next year we'll be back to normal. Keep well, keep safe. Thanks again for your support and your work over the year for this great project of ours. Take care. All the best. Thanks.